We live in really, really interesting times, man. Just think about where the Democrat Party is as a whole right now. They become so anti-Semitic that they passed on a governor like Josh Shapiro, who, if we're being honest, man, is actually a halfway likable, halfway reasonable guy, especially as far as Democrats are concerned. And not only is the guy likable and have, half a brain, it's not only that. I mean, he could have actually handed her Pennsylvania. The guy has a 60% approval rating there in his home state, but they passed on him. And most people think it's purely because he's Jewish. And not just Jewish, he's pro-Israel, which are two things that you really, really can't be in the modern day Democrat Party that's been completely overrun by progressive radicals, which is exactly what she's actually chosen. I mean, the guy, he might look like the Democrats, favorite straight white male that they always like to rely on, but Tim Waltz is a radical in every single way. And I'm going to tell you much, much more about him. But first, guys, check out this ad that they're already running.
What could be weirder than signing a bill into law that requires schools to stock tampons in boys' bathrooms? Or weirder than signing legislation allowing minors to receive sex change operations? Try electing the man who signed those bills, Vice President of the United States. Enter Chief Weirdo Tim Walz. As governor of Minnesota, Walz supported legislation that endangers minors, hurts women, and puts radical ideology ahead of common sense. Now Kamala wants Walz to enforce those laws on a national scale. Tim Walz, too weird, too radical.
Yeah, you gotta love it. Cheap weirdo. Tim Waltz, cheap weirdo. And that's absolutely spot on. I mean, all of those things are in fact weird. And actually, they're worse than weird. They're dangerous. They're destructive. And they're radical as hell, man. But the funny part is, apparently this guy Waltz claims to have actually coined the whole, Trump and Vance are weird thing, which is really going to show you just how dumb the left actually is. I mean, these people have no humor. They are not creative at all, because whoever came up with the weird thing should have been fired, not given the promotion of all promotions. I mean, it truly is insane, but this is who they choose. And it wasn't for any real political maneuvering. They don't likely have to worry about winning Minnesota. The last Republican to win in Minnesota was Nixon, not even Ronald Reagan in the 1984 landslide. Not even he won Minnesota. I mean, it's basically a vote blue no matter who as it gets. I mean, if vote blue no matter who was a state, it would be Minnesota. And Minnesota allows a lot of crazy things that I don't think the rest of the country is going to support. And it's not going to be easy for these people to hide what they really believe. And it's going to be really, really interesting to watch how the media actually treats this. Because don't forget, it's been 3 weeks since Joey actually quit, and Kamala Harris has been in hiding ever since. I thought she would actually pick a running mate that could get out and really be her mouthpiece, but this guy's going to have enough on his plate just explaining his own radical, crazy record and his other indiscretions, which I'm not even going to talk about in the video, but there are some funny ones. I'll do some videos on them later, but I'm talking about things like giving state ID and driver's licenses to illegal aliens.
A packed room at the St. Paul Armory erupted after the governor's signature made driver's license for all the law of the land.
That's progressive virtue signaling at its absolute finest, man, at its peak, man. As he signs a law allowing illegal aliens state identification, he invites basically every brown person he could find in order to show off and do it, right? It's quite the accomplishment, right? According to liberals, Black Minnesotans are still too dumb to get an ID to vote. But if you're not supposed to be here, the state will literally get the ID card for you. I mean, it's pretty remarkable stuff, man. When you look at the 30,000 foot level of all this stuff, it's hard to make up, man, but it's not even his most radical immigration position. I wish this was his most radical position on illegal immigration, but it's not. I mean, basically what the left is trying to set up here with the addition of Tim Walz is just a new, even more worthless and even more dangerous border czar. I mean, this is exactly what they want.
A plan that's out there, talking about it with folks, knowing that he's not going to do anything. He talks about this wall. I always say, let me know how high it is. If it's 25 feet, then I'll invest in the 30-foot ladder factory. That's not how you stop this.
This is exactly who these people are. This is who they really are, man. If Donald Trump builds a wall, The left will give you a ladder and give you a driver's license, and they'll also give you sanctuary.
Should Minnesota be a sanctuary state?
If the definition of that is that the federal government enforces immigration law and local law enforcement enforces local law, then yes.
Should cities be allowed to be sanctuary cities?
Yes, local control.
Local control is, of course, a fantastic, fantastic thing, but that's not what sanctuary status is. Sanctuary status means there is no coordination between local police and federal agencies regarding crimes committed by illegals. Even a violent offender is safe from being deported in a sanctuary city or sanctuary state. I mean, these are crazy, crazy concepts that the majority of Americans do not support. I mean, this guy is a radical. I mean, he looks like a teacher. He was a former teacher, but this guy is a radical. The guy is extreme, but every once in a while, I'm going to give it to him. He's honest. You know, he will at least tell you that, yes, progressives are socialists.
Get out there, reach out, make the case. And for one thing, don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness.
Yeah, so at least he's honest, man. His progressive values are the very, very same thing as socialism. We know that. They never, ever say it. So you have to appreciate that, right? But I think we need to set the record straight just a tiny little bit. No one actually wants socialist neighbors, man. We want neighbors that will not steal our stuff or lie. And we definitely don't want neighbors that are going to commit elder abuse.
Spend a lot of time with the president, and he's great. We're talking, we're chatting, and all this. And I think, you know, we all get a little older. That's what happens. But you also gain that insight. And I think when it comes to these issues, working across the aisle to get things done, you see the president just doing this with dignity, doing it with class, getting up every day, doing the work. So I think he's just doing what he does. And I think it's kind of incumbent upon all of us. Look, my mom's 88, still living on the farm, drives herself. Folks are able to do this. So I think this little bit of ageism that goes to this, if it's not that, would be something else. They attack all of us on something. This is part of it.
So listen to what he said, man. Apparently anyone who questioned or still questions whether or not Joe Biden is cognitively fit enough to lead the entire free world is just an ageist. You're just a bigot, basically. I mean, it doesn't exactly sound like a guy whose judgment can be trusted. And to me, it sends the message that these people are just going to continue to ignore the issues of Joe's brain. You know, they aren't even going to address what Kamala knew and when she knew it, or what her part was and is in covering it all up. They're just going to keep pretending that Joey's doing just fine and he's doing a great job, right? And these people are just going to promise more of the same. I mean, just look at some of what these people are actually capable of and what Tim Waltz really is responsible for.
Harris sending this out on X. If you're able to chip in now to the Minnesota Freedom Fund to help post bail for those protesting on the ground in Minnesota. Thanks to Harris's promotion, the group reportedly raised $35 million in just a few weeks.
Darnica Floyd, charged with second-degree murder for stabbing a friend to death. And she got out of jail, too. A twice-convicted rapist, currently charged with kidnapping and sexual assault, and he walks out, too.
The Freedom Fund raked in donations when it was promoted by many, including now Vice President Kamala Harris.
Sean Michael Tillman shot and killed a passenger on a train platform after reportedly being released from jail 3 weeks prior. All thanks to the Minnesota Freedom Fund.
Donovan Boone was charged with breaking into the home of an ex-girlfriend and choking her. Freedom Fund bailed him out for $3,000 cash, and he hasn't shown up for court since.
I often don't even look at a charge specifics when I bail someone out.
The Hennepin County attorney called out the Minnesota Freedom Fund for bailing Mosley out of jail twice previously, even though he was arrested for having a gun in the courthouse.
The Minnesota Freedom Fund, which pays cash bail for low-income criminals, paid Tims's entire $10,000 bail in cash.
11 days later, police found a man bleeding from the head and ears in this alley. Police were able to arrest Tims in connection to this violent assault.
Howard was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. The Minnesota Freedom Fund acknowledged supporting Howard's bail.
This is who these people are, man. And this is every bit of who Kamala Harris is. She helped raise $35 million to get violent activists, which may as well have been Democrat foot soldiers, out of jail. I mean, these people literally have blood on their hands. These people did everything they could to fan the flames of every bit of division this country's ever had. And now she's chosen a guy who really probably, if anyone could have stopped it, it was him.
I will not patronize you as a white man without living those lived experiences of how very difficult that is. But I'm asking you to help us. Help us use humane way to get the streets to a place where we can restore the justice so that those that are expressing rage and anger and demanding justice are heard. Take away the attention of the stain that we need to be working on is what happened with those fundamental institutional racism that allows a man to be held down in broad daylight. And thank God a young person had a camera to video it, because there's not a person here or listening today that wonders how many times that camera's not there. These are tough questions. These are things that have been brewing in this country for 400 years.
You got to put it all into context, man. As he was up there at that podium saying all that empty garbage, entire cities in Minnesota were being burned to the ground. You know, it was really, really very, very rare to see any photos on mainstream media. They never showed you the aftermath, but parts of Minnesota were literally turned into complete wastelands. I mean, homes, businesses, lives, man, real lives were completely destroyed. And after he let it all happen, after he fanned the flames, this is the message that he delivered to his citizens.
Does not put equity and inclusion at the center of it is certainly going to eventually come to the places where we're at. This is a moment of inflection. It's a moment of real change. It's a moment that those folks who are out there demanding this are not going to take a commission or a report. They're going to want fundamental change. And that is what I think that's one of the exciting things in the midst of all this. You can feel a sense of optimism coming back.
This is who the Democrat Party thinks deserves to go to the White House, man. Kamala Harris, who bails out violent rioters and the governor that literally fanned the flames of those riots and told the rest of his citizens that it needed to happen and that it was really just their fault for not putting equity at the center of everything, right? I mean, he would probably give that exact same speech if ever there was a terrorist attack on U.S. soil. I mean, it's always our fault with these kind of people, right? But that's not even the worst of this guy. I mean, come on. I honestly cannot believe where we're at right now. Wait till you see the governor's crowning achievement.
Hey, Rena, this comes at a time when a lot of other states are passing bills that would restrict gender-affirming care or outlaw it for minors. And there's actually a bill here pending at the legislature here at the Capitol that would make Minnesota sort of a trans care refuge state. But the governor did not want to wait for that to get to his desk.
When our children tell us who they are, it is our job as grown-ups to listen and to believe them.
It was an event that had all the trappings of a bill signing ceremony. A huge crowd of lawmakers, advocates, and families, in this case, gathered in support of legal protections for people seeking gender-affirming care for themselves or their children. But the paper Governor Walz signed was an executive order. His action comes at a time when transgender persons across the nation feel under siege.
This is life-threatening.
The Iowa Senate passed a bill Tuesday.
Those in favor of the motion shall say aye.
Barring doctors from providing puberty blockers, hormone therapy, or gender-affirming surgery to anyone under 18. Mississippi passed a similar bill last week, barring gender-affirming care. In New Hampshire, there's a bill that would require schools to tell parents what their kid's gender is.
We'll make sure that Minnesota's place as a welcoming, loving, neighborly state where you are welcome and will be free of persecution or anything else that we're trying to see in some other states.
In committee hearings, GOP lawmakers have asserted children are too young to make decisions about gender.
These are damaging, lifelong procedures.
They've also brought up custody disputes.
If one parent brings a child here for gender affirming care and the other parent lives in Alaska, do you believe that that would be inconvenient for the parent that lives in Alaska?
Many states are asking their queer people to find two spaces that are comfortable, the closet or the coffin. And we are saying we are not going to accept that in Minnesota. In Minnesota, you can stay.
Executive order, man. He did it all by executive order. He welcomed the abuse of people who cannot meaningfully consent to anything by executive order. I mean, this is who these people really are. And this is what they actually believe. And they think you believe it too. They think that the voters are going to see this kind of insanity and not just accept it, but they're going to vote for it. And honestly, it's an interesting choice, man. And honestly, I don't think they could have made the choice any more clear in November. A vote for Kamala Harris really is a vote in favor of every radical, progressive agenda item that exists right now, right? And now we get to see these people try to convince us that they're the moderates and Donald Trump is the danger. And they're going to have help from the media, but I just can't see how they do it, man. It's completely insane. But that's just my take, guys. I figured you'd want to see this, who this guy really is. Just let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you haven't already, guys, be a part of our growth. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. I'll see you in the next one.